The NYPD has shut down the unit that it used to spy on Muslims in and out of the city. That group infiltrated the places and organizations where members of specific ethnicities and religions would gather, including social clubs and even on Muslim group rafting trips with teenagers. Now, the department admits the unit never generated a single viable lead and has been the subject of several lawsuits. A federal judge in New Jersey dismissed one suit because the Muslims targeted there couldn't prove that they had been harmed. Other federal suits claim the unit's mission violated a court order from a 60s and 70s era surveillance program of student groups and protesters. Okay, it's going away, but even in a post 9/11 New York, and I happen to think Ray Kelly and Michael Bloomberg, not racist. So let's take that out here. That said, though, if they went to my church and followed my kids along surreptitiously on a rafting trip because they happen to go to, a Catholic church on Sundays, I wouldn't be quiet in saying, hey, it comes with the territory. Was this just a dumb idea in the beginning, or do you cut them slack?
It's a really tough question because,
really?
Gutturally, your instinct after the 9/11 attacks is, we have to give up something here, we have to protect, but this went way too far. There's got to be a line that you draw. There's got to be some semblance of suspicion. You need more than just to say we're going to target all Muslims and go into their churches, go into their schools.
Jimmy, if they said Armenians, you know what, guilty till proven innocent, we're going to follow your kids around where they go, and while you're going to service, they're going to sit in there with you. Come on.
Well, then they have to deal with my wife. And then now you're talking a different story. No, but it's too much. It's too far. And there was no justification for it. And you have Representative King saying that it worked, but the only reason he cites that it worked is because we weren't attacked. And
there wasn't one lead, Doug.
That's right.
And I guess to me the point is, they didn't even, it would have been flawed to me if they stayed in the 5 boroughs. They went out of state for some of this stuff, and they never notified any other law enforcement agencies that were doing it. I mean, the whole thing just, if you want Exhibit A of how things can get out of control, whether they didn't come out of malice, the idea, this is it.
I agree. I mean, listen, no leads. Everything is an allocation of resources. At some point, somebody has to look at it and say, it's not working. And by the way, you don't look at it at the end. At some point during the course of the program, you have to say, hey, no leads. There could be bad guys doing things other places. We got to go find those people. That's what strikes me. How do you keep going something that doesn't work?
But you know the Constitution better than anybody I know, Mark. Don't I have a right to privacy? I know it's not without limits, but when I go to church or my kids going on a trip, should they have a reasonable expectation? If there's no justifiable rationale to be following them and trailing them, shouldn't they have an expectation of privacy there?
No, because it's public behavior. Now, I agree with Doug that this is a
then what's
policy.
Private?
It's not private. You're in public, and we've talked about it on the program before. Anybody could come into the synagogue, the church, or the mosque and sit there and listen, and the cops aren't doing any more than a private citizen could.
Even if you're being targeted, it's not being.
Here's the thing. The Jersey case, and I reread it before we came in here, didn't only hold that there was no standing, it held that there was no First Amendment violation because they hadn't pleaded adequately or plausibly, as the term is, that it was motivated by discriminatory intent. There is a discriminatory effect, but there were legitimate law enforcement reasons for doing it, and the legitimate reasons are provided by 9/11. So it's more of a First Amendment issue. Theoretically, if they're overrunning the church, the synagogue, or the mosque with law enforcement agents, there could be a chilling effect. You might not want to go to church, you might not want to go to synagogue, you might not want to go to the mosque. That might impermissibly infringe on your right to free exercise of religion.
By definition, Mark, isn't this discriminatory in that you can prove empirically that certain faiths get treated than others, and there's no criminal rationale or to suggest that they should be going to this particular mosque instead of your synagogue, my church, whatever.
What they have to show is that the purpose and the sole motivating purpose of it was an intent to discriminate against them on the basis of religion. It does affect them disproportionately, Muslims, there's no doubt, but they have a legitimate reason to do it, so held the judge in New Jersey, Martini, and that legitimate reason is that, unfortunately, they're the great majority of the people perpetrating terror attacks, particularly 9/11. So he threw the suit out. Now, what will happen in the Third Circuit Court of Appeals? I don't know, but I think they have an uphill battle. It's not really a legal question. It's a cost-benefit analysis. Is it worth it? Now we can have an argument about that. It hasn't generated anything, so why bother? with it?
And who's saying it worked then? That's what I don't get. It hasn't generated anything.
Right.
There's a deposition where a leading police sergeant or lieutenant said it's never generated
Let
anything.
me jump in on this one because you're going to like this next one here because you get to throw around your Birmingham credentials in jolly old England. Up next, prosecution pit bull took a big bite Oscar for stories. Been waiting to say it all day, even though I butchered the line. Now it's the defense's turn to counter the arguments, and then a judge will reach her decision and her decision alone. No jury. Coming up, our panel's going to weigh in on whether it's a good or a bad thing. Stay with us.